And it is a real honor to be talking to you. And we have a really important conversation on immigration, on border security. This week, as you know, the House voted against impeaching DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and the bipartisan border security bill failed in the Senate. But before we dive into all of that, you actually visited the border before. So could you tell us a little bit about your experience, what you saw there, and probably most importantly, what you believe is missing from the national conversation regarding border security and immigration?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I went down to the border and I told them I didn't want to do the photo op and all the other nonsense. I said I want to go down, and flew down one night, and I said the next day, full day on the border, and then I flew back to Tennessee on the next, so it was really a 3-day trip, I guess. 1 day on the ground at the border, and then flew home the next day, because I really didn't care for all the press conference stuff. I just wanted to see it for myself. And Andy Biggs put that together out of Arizona, and so we went to the border. We saw it all. We saw all the stuff on the razor wire and the storage containers that Texas had put up, and talked to a lot of very discouraged law enforcement, border patrol. But I had a different experience. I don't, when the cameras get away from you, you can kind of wander probably where you're not supposed to be. But I saw this family. They'd just come over the border, walked across the Rio Grande there at one point. Some people swim. There's areas of it. I mean, it's pretty much an open sewer, unfortunately. And they had this. There's a family there, and they were holding their little girl, and they had a little boy. And I married my wife. My wife was a widow, Navy widow, and I adopted her little girl, and she's wonderful. She's wonderful, man. She is a special little girl, and I'm so fortunate. And she's a whole lot like her mama. And but the little girl was about the same age of my Isabel when I started dating her mama, and she was older than her. She was probably 4, 5, 6 or something, because they were a short family, so the little girl was little bitty. And I put my hand on her little shoulder, and I said, "Hola," and the border patrol said, "Congressman, she probably doesn't speak English." And I said, "Well, brother, a lot of people would question whether I speak English as well." And she smiled at me, and I just kept thinking, this little girl is the same age as my Isabel when I got her. And I said, and I got to thinking, I guess God spoke to me. I say he speaks to me, just not in an audible voice. He didn't say, "Tim, do something about the border," but I said, I need to do something about this. And I thought, man, we're the greatest dadgum country on God's green earth. We can do better than this, and we should. And so I started digging into it, and I'm trying to develop businesses that Americans possibly create a incentive type thing where they can invest in these countries where we know these folks are coming from. Because the vast majority of them, you got the cartels, and they're dirtbags, and we need to send them to hell as quick as possible. But the vast majority of these people are just trying to get a better life for their families. And I take an oath to uphold the Constitution, the laws of this country, and they're here illegally. Don't get me wrong, and they need to be stopped, and we need to send them home. But the problem is that it's just not happening in this environment. So I'm trying to create a way, and I call it demagnetizing, because you saw in New York last week where they put $53 million into credit cards to issue to people that are here illegally. Dadgummit, all that's going to do is bring them up there, magnetize them. And in California, giving them free health care. I mean, somebody's going to pay for all this stuff. But, capitalism outside of Christianity, I feel like it's the greatest. It's done more for people than anything outside of Christianity. And we could start exporting capitalism. And there's some, I'm working with some folks in my area to develop these businesses down there, and then they can sell their products to America. And because if those people will make around $5,000 a year, dadgum, they'll stay in their own countries, $5,000. And so I'm looking at it from a different angle, and I blame the Democrats. I mean, I blame Biden. You know, he's got his head in the sand on this thing. All he's doing is I think you've got a lot of people that are truly anarchists. They want to destroy this country and everything it stands for. I think some people got his ear that truly want to do that, and the way they're going to do that is just overwhelm every social system we have in this country. And two, I feel like with mail-in ballots, there's very little credibility on this thing. I just have a lot of bad feelings about this thing. So but I don't particularly blame the Democrats or the Republicans. Who I blame, we've got these national chambers of commerce who are involved in this latest negotiations out of the Senate, which to me, we're not in a negotiation. You're going to say, if you have 5,000 encounters, they shut the border down at that point. Nobody else gets to come. Well, how are they going to stop them? They can't stop them now. So if you're telling me 4,999, it's okay, but at 5,000, we're going to stop. No, these people are here illegally. You've got to stop it. But we got to look at it a different way. And like down in Guatemala, they're having a hard time finding working age men and women now, because guess what? They're all coming up here. And so we've got to change the narrative. We got to put our heads together. And, I think what's going on right now is just a bunch of nonsense. It's election year. Biden knows the polls are showing. I mean, you have Democrat mayors and governors, for goodness sakes, who are condemning him. And, the fentanyl I met with in Washington this past week, and I'll wrap this part up. I'm sorry I'm talking so long. I've had too much coffee this morning. But I met with the narcotics officers, and they said just about 100% of it is coming over our southern border. It's produced in China. It's sent over our southern border. Fentanyl is killing thousands of people. I met with a girl that went to my high school, Bearden High School. She was a couple years younger than me, and her son took some fentanyl unbeknownst to him. He overdosed, of course, and died. And it's just time and time again. It's everywhere. We're all border states now because of this thing.